Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? We're about to begin our service. On behalf of the family, thank you all for being here with them. Please take a moment to make sure that your cell phones are on silent, please. We're going to have an opening song by Zach Scoggins, and Pastor John Pyle will follow.
Yeah, let me go ahead and introduce my man, Zach. One of the things that when I talked to Tabitha and just in conversing with Mo just a little bit, Bobby didn't want this to be a sad occasion. He wasn't looking for a bunch of sad, crying people, even though that is who we are, right? We're sad and devastated about his loss, but he really did want this to be a celebration of life, especially for the people that really loved him. So there's nobody who, if I was going to kick off a celebration, there's no musician that I would want more than Zach. So Zach Scoggins is an amazing singer, songwriter, and one of Bobby's favorite, a guy that knew him pretty well. And so I'd love to throw it to Zach to kick us off with some fun.
Love y'all. I am convinced of a spiritual plane, that this world is not the only place my soul has ever been or ever will be. I've always known but not believed. Through the years evidence appeared before my eyes and into my ears. Then one day in a darkened room, a stranger told me just what to do. He said, start walking up heaven's road. The signs along the way will show you where to go. They'll lead you right to a hill with a tree, and there in its branches you will find a key. Take it with you, 'cause it opens the door to eternity. Oh, do you believe? I started walking just like I was told. I followed the signs all along the road. I found that key in the tree on the hill. Now I'm strangers no more, but best friends with him, yeah. Oh yeah, I am convinced of a spiritual plane, that this world is not the only place my soul has ever been or ever will be. I've always known, but now I believe. You just start walking up heaven's road. The signs along the way will show you where to go. They'll lead you right to a hill with a tree, and there in its branches you will find a key. Take it with you, 'cause it opens the door to eternity. Oh, do you believe?
On behalf of the family, Tabitha, Bobby, Mo, Virginia, Bobby, Jalen, Jacob, we do want to thank you for coming here. I want to start by reading the obituary. With heavy hearts, we announce the passing of Robert Bobby Exon on March 21st, 2025 at the age of 69. Born on January 21st, 1956, Bobby was a devoted husband, father, brother, and friend whose presence brought warmth and laughter to all who knew him. Bobby was a man of kindness, compassion, and generosity. He was never afraid to strike a conversation with a complete stranger, always eager to share a story or crack a joke to brighten someone's day. He had a heart of gold, always putting others before himself. Whether it was giving his last dollar, the shirt off his back, or simply lending a helping hand. Bobby was a skilled auto mechanic who truly loved the challenge of diagnostics and the innovation it inspired. He was also a vintage car and motorcycle enthusiast who could identify a vehicle year, make, and model by the sound of its engine revving. You know, when I pulled up here, there was a custom truck that pulled out of the parking lot right there. Bobby would have known exactly what that was. But above all, his greatest love was for his children and those he held dear. He lived his life making sure those around him were taken care of, always showing up with an open heart and a listening ear. Bobby is preceded in his death by his father, Paul Exon, his mother, Virginia Exon, and his brothers, Paul Exon, Larry Exon, and George Exon. He is survived by his loving wife, Tabitha Exon, his children, Mo, Bobby, Jacob, Jalen, and Virginia, his sister, Mary Fuentes. His legacy of love, laughter, and selflessness will live on in the hearts of those who knew him. He will be deeply missed, but never forgotten. My first observation in seeing Bobby is that I am overdressed. If the man of the hour is in a t-shirt, I probably could have toned it down a little bit. But we are here today to not just remember, but to celebrate his life. And we grieve the loss of someone we love so much, but we can celebrate because we believe that because of Bobby's faith, he's in a better place without the pain and suffering of this life. Even though there was so much that he loved, he's got a perfect body to match his spirit. And that means that even though we're going to miss Bobby, we can have hope. And so we can grieve differently. And this is an invitation to grieve differently. I know y'all have stories about Bobby, and we'll hear some reflections from the family and hopefully from you as well later, as there's going to be a story time. You know, in getting to know Bobby, first of all, I always loved seeing him. He had a great way of making you feel incredible when you saw him, and give him some hugs on the plaza there at City Church. I'm a pastor at City Church. That's where I met Tabitha, Bobby, and the family. And I really always loved seeing him, and he was always great to chat with, just like what you talked about, Tabitha. There was always a good conversation, and he was very interesting. And what I found so fascinating is not only was he so kind, he was also very deep. There was something about him that was very rooted and confident. And in seeing how he lived his life and talking to Tabitha about it recently, it reminded me of a Martin Luther King Jr. quote, that hate is too great a burden to bear. I will choose love instead. As we celebrate his life and we fondly remember his time here on earth, I am struck at how short life can be and how quickly things can change. I know the family was absolutely shocked at the news of Bobby's passing, and there's nothing you can do to prepare yourself for losing someone you love so much. There's no work you can do in advance that somehow softens the blow. I do believe that our bodies here on earth are temporary dwellings, for our souls, the eternal part of us, something that connects to something much larger than us. And one thing that is true, no matter what you might believe, is that our bodies will ultimately fail us in this life. In Scripture, the writing is it's swallowed up by aching and groaning. And for those of us who have aged beyond the point where we can eat Taco Bell safely, you know that there's more groaning. Not just because of the physical circumstances, but also a change in how we see the world and are grieved by what might be going on. We have a sense of longing and thinking there has to be something more to life than this. And there is. Bobby believed there is. That there's an eternal home for him, and that's where he's residing, waiting for us. And as hard as it can accept, no matter what we may believe, all of our bodies will one day fail. And while we may be at different parts of our journey, we will eventually be swallowed up by life. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. Whether you've recognized this groaning stage or not, it's a good reminder that life is temporary. And recognizing this truth, as painful as it is to say goodbye to someone we love so much like Bobby, recognizing this truth can actually be a gift. And so here's what I want to have you consider today. How can how to respond in the face of something like this? Love people the best you can. Invest in the relationships you value. How you love people matters forever. Another thing that I think Bobby would agree with is live like this is your temporary home. Don't be afraid But don't be deceived into thinking you'll live forever either. This life is a gift, and treat every day like that. And I think the last thing that Bobby would want to say is forgive. He was a man of deep forgiveness. And from what I knew of his story, he was a man that had much to forgive. I mean, if anybody had a license to be bitter or upset with life, the loss of a dearly loved wife, other tragedies and difficulties in his life, he could have become bitter, but instead he chose forgiveness. So I think he would encourage you to forgive. It's worth it. And so Tabitha and I, we've had multiple conversations about faith, religion, God, the universe. I know that we and the kids will probably continue talking about that. But here's what I know for absolutely certain. Both she and Bobby would want you to celebrate his life today. Now, Tabitha, I'm going to go ahead and invite you up here to share some reflections.
Bobby was my husband. We shared our lives together for 18 years. In that time, he softened my rough edges and opened my eyes to the goodness in humanity. His spontaneous nature challenged my inflexible character, and I am better for it. We fit together like yin and yang, each of us supplying something integral to the other's well-being. But our relationship was anything but typical. You see, he lived a whole life before we even met. In fact, many of you know him better as Robert instead of Bobby. By age 50, he had already suffered through the death of his first wife and his parents, knew the heartbreak of divorce, and began his battle with diabetes. Yet through all his experiences, Bobby remained eternally hopeful, positive, and ceaselessly kind. It was his kindness that I first fell in love with, followed closely by his shy grin that captured my heart. His jokes and silly mannerisms tempered my terminally serious disposition, like when he would put on the t-shirt he's wearing today, strike a pose and say, "Look, I'm the Flash. I moved so quickly you didn't even see me." And we both knew we wanted kids and started growing our family right away. We had Mo, Bobby, and Virginia, suffered 3 miscarriages, and then adopted Jacob and Jalen, finally completing our family. More than anything else, his children were the greatest source of joy. We had many private conversations about how amazingly unique each of our children are, and we often planned our days around ensuring they were able to participate in every activity that fuels their individual passions. In public, wherever he went, he was constantly showing off their pictures and gushing about their accomplishments to everyone he met. And I mean everyone. Like neighbors, waiters, grocery store cashiers, they all had to endure his nearly endless speeches about how great his kids were. On more than one occasion, I would lightly pat his arm and guide him toward the exit with a gentle, "Okay, it's time to go," so that the poor employee could take care of their next customer. Bobby fully enjoyed life every day and inspired others to do the same. One of the songs he used to sing around the house was "I Just Want to Celebrate" by Rare Earth, and that's what he would want for us today. For us to celebrate another day of living, for us to carry on after disappointment, to not be bothered with sorrow, to not be bothered with hate, not let things get you down, just celebrate. So I invite you to celebrate with me by sharing stories of how he impacted your life.
knew Bobby as Robert. We grew up together. He was married to my sister, Anne, who was his first wife. And Robert was always around our home. He practically lived there. He loved his friends. There's a couple of pictures that have been shown on the screen that show him at the park down the street from us, where him and his cousin John and Ann and a bunch of other friends would get together and swing on the swings and act like they were 10 years old, and yet they were already 18 or, you know. But he always had, he was always young at heart. He always had a smile. He always remembered your name. And when I was upset with something that was going on at home, I could always run to him before I ran to my sister, because his heart was always open. When Ann passed away, it was really a heartache for all of us. Both he and Ann had wanted children, and they were not able to have any. And then Ann passed away, and we never thought of Robert as anything other than our brother-in-law. And even though he went through a time in his life where he got into other relationships, we never judged him. It was always Robert, our brother-in-law. And then when he met Tabitha and his life really started, we were all very happy for him, because we loved him like a brother. And so whatever made Robert happy would make us happy. And we always kept in touch, and it didn't matter when we called him. Sometimes I'd call him and say, hey, Robert, I'm having trouble with the car, or Robert, I need this or that. And he was always saying, well, bring it to the shop, or bring it to the house, or, you know, he never turned us away. He just had a goodness about him, and he was kind and generous, and he made you feel special. And it was, when I found out he passed away, it was really hard, because I was younger than Ann, and so to me, he was just like another big brother. And we would talk every once in a while on the phone, and he was always cheerful and happy, and telling us about his kids and about how Tabitha was doing. And we were really happy to hear that his life was fulfilled. And I'm so happy that he got to know the Lord, and that he will be waiting for all of us in heaven, because he knew the Lord. And so I just wanted to tell Tabitha and her children that we were blessed to have him first, and you have him now, you've had him, and that Robert has always been the same. From his youth until the very end, he was always a good-hearted person. And he had so much faith in his children, because he was always telling us about the kids, and just people in general. He was just a good man. And it was really hard for us, and it's still hard for us, you know, to realize that we won't hear his voice on this earth, but we will see him again. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Hi, so I'm Conrad Exon, and I knew Bobby as my Uncle Robert. So for those of you who probably knew our family for a while, you probably know that him and his older brother, Paul, were like best of friends. So Paul is my dad. He passed away about 3 years ago, but we always heard stories about when they were younger. They're kind of inseparable, connected at the hip. And as you can see from the pictures, if you know what my dad looks like, they look identical. They sound the exact same, and they have the same kind of dad jokes, which I've come to appreciate. I'm sure you guys have heard all those as well. But I have a lot of fond memories of him. They were very close, him and my dad, and they even for several years, Uncle Robert lived a couple of neighborhoods away from our house that we grew up in. So a lot of times we would go over to their house or they would come over to our house, but I always vividly remember always looking forward to New Year's Eve at their house. Because I have an older sister, a younger brother, we all close in age, but at that point in time, Uncle Robert didn't really have any kids. Like he had a stepdaughter who was like a couple of years older, but we would go over around like middle school or high school time, and at that point in time, I think all of us at that age wanted to be a little bit older. So I would go to his house and it would be an opportunity to pretend to be an adult. Like he had a pool table in the garage, he had a dartboard, and we wouldn't play like any kind of kids game. So I'd get to pretend like I was an adult. And I always enjoyed talking to Uncle Robert because he never really talked to me like I was a child. He talked to me like I was an adult, and I always respected that. But I did always enjoy going to his house, pretending that I was an adult, trying to sneak a little Smirnoff here and there. Or I just really enjoyed being around all those adults and pretending like I was part of that family. But he lived over there for quite a long time, and we did. I just always enjoyed those big moments. But it's weird that you say like the life he had before you knew him. It's looking at all these pictures and talking to my mom, who's known him since high school. She was actually Ann's best friend at the time, and that's how they met. But it's weird knowing those stories because he even had a life before I knew him. So he's had 3 separate lives that we all know him through. But I'm really glad to see all the connections he's made as we grew up and all the family he's built. But thank you for being there. I appreciate all the impact that he's had in my life.
Yeah, I'm Zach Scoggins. I know Robert. I know him as Robert. When I got the call on Sunday and they said Bobby, I was like, oh, I don't know what you're talking about. And then I was like, oh, Robert. I know him as Robert. But it's all good. Bobby, Robert, same thing, potato, potato. But what I really loved about Robert / Bobby was he was always the same. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, I'm pretty emotionally volatile, you know, so you never know what you're going to get with me from day to day. But what I really loved about Robert is I always knew what I was going to get. Going to be steady, even-keeled, very gracious, very gentle. And I don't know about anybody else, but like he for me, he had this like gentle light that kind of had like this kind of a magnetism to it. And when I would see him, I would just kind of get pulled into it. And I just loved him. And you know, it's funny, like when we got together, anytime like we connected, he didn't really say a whole lot, you know what I mean? But it was just him being there, just kind of did something to you. Very unique thing. I can't really think of anybody else in my life that has that. So very unique in that. But I remember one time, we were at a PTO retreat. Sorry, you're not supposed to really talk about it, but I don't care. But I remember we were at a PTO retreat, and he was one of the people going through, one of the participants going through, and I was a leader. And at these retreats, it was like a recovery retreat through the church. You have to do some unique exercises. We'll just say it like that, right? Not like you were working out, like you did like exercises, you know. And one of the ones we were doing is I'm sorry, y'all, I'm not trying to break any, you know, but one of the things we did is we wanted him, you know, you kind of get somebody to kind of channel their aggression, you know, and one of the things I was trying to do is like, you know, through his story, get him to yank on this towel. Well, the thing with Robert was he had bad knees, so we had to do it sitting down, right? And Bobby was so even-keeled, I was trying to, you know, get him to like, you know, acknowledge these emotions that you're angry, but he was so chill. He was just so chill. He would not go there. And so I was just sitting there with this towel. He had it in one hand, I had it in the other. And first, I don't know what I turned to the side, and I don't know what lit this dude up, but he stood up. He's like, no, you know, and he started like yanking on the towel, and everybody was like trying to behind him. They're like, oh, make sure he's okay, you know. But he had this fight inside him to want to leave that place different than he got there. And you know what blows my mind is the dude was already pretty chill and peaceful, but he was still not leaving any stone unturned, which led me to believe that he had something at home to unturn those stones for and to fight for. And so I just want to say we're losing just like an amazing dude, but heaven, I truly believe, is getting an angel. So I love you, and we will miss him, but he's always with us. That's all I got.
I knew him as Bobby, and I met him through a church we used to go to back when I was still married to my ex-wife, Juanita. And Pastor Ivan was the pastor. He's still a pastor. I've been divorced for 21 years. When I first met Bobby, you can add on maybe 2 more years prior to my divorce. And never knew where he lived. But I used to work for HEB, which is the one that, SA25, which is on Tezo and Mystic Park, or Bandera. And he shopped a lot. And I'm not going to say he didn't mind shopping for the family, but I'd see him down the aisle with the cart. Hey, what's up, Bobby? Hey, well, how you doing, man? I said, you're doing good. And I said, what are you out here doing? He looked at the cart, shopping for the family, right? But like this gentleman shared, even when I first met him at Pastor Ivan's church, God was just so calm, so peaceful, so graceful. And he knew, or still knows, my ex-wife and all my boys. He'd always ask, how's Juanita doing? How's the kids doing? Doing good, Bobby. And when I'd see him down the aisle, whether his back, he's walking down the aisle, I just couldn't wait to approach him. And he just, big stout guy, just always had that smile on his face. And when I heard the news, I just couldn't believe it. And as I'm getting older, I'm trying to be more disciplined in my relationship with God. And I know he believed in his Lord and Savior. I know we all wish he was still here with us. None of us really know what it's like when our time's up, but I know that he's in the arms of the Lord. He showed his faith. He wasn't ashamed to show his faith, and after I got divorced and stopped going to Pastor Ivan's church, I mean, like I said, I've seen him a lot at HEB. He was there a lot at SA25, and he was one heck of a man. And I know he loved his family, for sure. And even though I didn't see him every day or as much as I would have liked to, it was a pleasure and an honor to see him at the store shopping. And I always made a point that I made contact with him. And that song that he was playing is an awesome song. I lost my dad December of 2023, 87 years old, Parkinson's and dementia, but I guess you guys were hooked up to YouTube or whatever on the speakers. There's a song that brings peace to my heart, and when my dad passed, I took my Bluetooth speaker and I played it before we said our last goodbyes. It's called Somewhere in Heaven by Santana, and it's such a beautiful song. I don't know who's in control of the music here, but if you can play it, if you all would like to hear it, or the family when you go home. There's several versions of it. I took a screenshot when I was sitting down. I don't know who's in control of the music, but this is the version that kind of really hits home. I don't know who was playing the music there. But it's a beautiful song. It's called Somewhere in Heaven. And when I miss Dad, I kind of play that song, or if I feel, and even though it's not even for Dad or for Bobby, but I'm now, he's right there with my dad, and when I miss him or think about my memories with him, I'm going to play that song. And that song, Somewhere in Heaven, it goes about saying that what the Lord did for us, shed his last drop of blood, died on the cross, and somewhere in heaven there's a place for you and me and for all of us. And life is short. We might have disagreements with our loved ones or get mad for certain things or this and that and the other, but I know for me personally, I'm really trying to get a stronger relationship with my Lord and Savior. And I'm going to leave here tonight knowing that the faith that he showed with God, he's in a better place. I know we wish all that he was still here with us, but I'm going to leave here tonight knowing that he's in good hands with the Lord. And like I said, I didn't see him every day, but he knew me by my first name. He knew my ex-wife by her first name. He knew my kids by all their names, my 4 boys. And he will be missed. And thank you.
Hello, everyone. I wish we were here in better circumstances. Bobby was an amazing man, and that's how we knew him. Everybody's saying Robert and Bobby and different things. And Bobby was easily one of the most selfless, kindest people I've ever known. And we met Bobby back in the early 2000s at church, same one Abel was speaking about, at Family Vision Center. And first time I met him, I just remember this nice, real quiet, cool guy. And then it was interesting to me because every single Sunday, there was somebody else in the church asking him, "Hey, can you take a look at my car? Can you take a look at my car? Can you take a look at my car?" It was amazing, and never charged anybody, never said. He said, "Yeah, let me go take a look. Let me go take a look." And he was. I remember there was a few people whose cars probably wouldn't have been running after church that day if it hadn't been for Bobby and his kindness. He was an extraordinary person. And I remember, I missed going to church with him. We all kind of went our own ways for a while several years ago, but he was just an extraordinary man. And last time I saw him was about maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago at the Texas DPS over off Parent Bidle. And it was just so nice to see him. He was, it was just like we, just give him a big hug, give me a big hug, and we're talking, and it was just so nice to see him. And I see like on Facebook he shares, about Tabitha and the kiddos, and our son grew up, all of them were born like one right after the other. So it was just really special. And he's just a truly extraordinary man. If we had more people like Brother Bobby, which is what we'd call him, Brother Bobby, this world would be an amazing place. It would be a fantastic, wonderful place. We need more people like him, and so it makes me happy to see he has, all these children, because they're going to bless the world like he did. And so, just want to say thank you, Brother Bobby, for being a part of our lives and for being so special, and we're going to miss him, but I know that I believe there's a heaven, and I know there is a heaven. He's definitely there, because he really embodied a lot of the teachings and principles of Jesus Christ. And so I know God was proud of him, and I know Jesus would have been proud and said, "Hey, thanks for following a lot of what I do." And I think if we could all follow in those selfless, kind, humble footsteps that Bobby influenced us to be like, I think we're all going to make this world a better place. And so we'll miss you, Brother Bobby, and we love you very much.
if you do have more stories and reflections, maybe ones that can't be told publicly, I'm sure the family would love to hear them. And on your way out, we have non-disclosure agreements that we'll sign so that Zach doesn't get in trouble. I'll tell Yolanda on you. Hearing all these stories, right, about two names, Bobby and Robert, but really one identity and one great man. And it takes a kind of integrity to have everyone see you in the same way, despite living three at least different lives. It takes a real integrity to be the same person that you were playing at the park at 18 as the man that you were with your family at 68. It's impressive, and it's truly what we all strive for. It's so celebrations of life and saying goodbye to people can be very difficult. But one of the most delightful parts is being able to see somebody from all different sides. A 360-degree story of somebody's life, from people that knew him when he was a child to people, ex-in-laws, right? Children, everybody, to know more about a guy like Bobby, whose life was really characterized by love, truly. And in the scripture it says, if you don't have love, you have nothing. That means that if you have love, you have everything that matters. And I think Bobby would say that the people he loved was everything in his life that matters. You know, he's wearing a comic book t-shirt, The Flash, right? So I'll take a moment to use a little comic book reference. In a Marvel show, actually, it summed up grief perfectly, but what is grief but not love persevering? The idea that grief is how love lives on in the absence of someone that we cared for so much. And we're going to have to do some grieving because Bobby is gone. But as you grieve and as you're maybe sad, maybe angry, there's a lot of different emotions that might come with it. Just remember that that's your love for him continuing. That's the love that you felt for him, and to be honest, the love that he felt for you continuing to go on in the form of a different emotion. And we're going to have to deal with that grief. And I want to encourage everyone, especially the kids, however you feel, however you process your grief is normal. Everybody does it differently. It's not logical, nor is it linear. A wise man once told me that. So whatever you're feeling, however you're feeling, please know that you're not alone. I'll speak for pretty much everybody in this room and say that we're all here for y'all as you process and deal with the loss of somebody who loved you and you loved tremendously. And we do have to acknowledge that loss. That's the hardest part about love, and the hardest part about this life is that one day it does end. And that's where grief comes in. So I want to encourage you to circle the wagons. One of the things that people often tell me as they are encountering grief or the loss, they might not know what to say to the family. They might not know how to approach Tabitha or the kids. And I just want to unburden you a little bit. There's no right thing to say. There's not a right thing to do, because there's nothing in your power that can heal a wound of somebody that is departed. There's nothing you can do to make it better overnight. So show up. And guess what? It can be awkward, and that's okay. Because I know what the family will remember is not the awkward conversation, but the love of you showing up. Lunch, coffee, text message, YouTube link to a song. Whatever it is, continue showing up. Because the kids and Tabitha will need this community. Something that I've learned very, very well since moving to San Antonio is that family does not mean blood. Family is the community of people that you surround yourself with and you love and that are close. And so in this case, let's be family to Bobby's family. And let's show up and continue to help them grieve. I'm going to close us out with a little benediction, just like a prayer kind of spoken over everybody. And then Zach will have an opportunity to sing a song, and please pay respects to the family as you maybe visit Bobby one last time, or you just share your respects. Most merciful God, whose wisdom is beyond our understanding, deal graciously with those who mourn Bobby. Surround them with your love that they may not be overwhelmed by their loss, but have confidence in your goodness and strength to meet the days to come. Through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
It's so perfect what he was mentioning there. This song is called The Love, and it's about when the questions get too, when the answers get too heavy to understand what the solution is. So, although I don't have the answers, I know what the solution is. I don't know what makes the wind blow, and I don't know how far the universe goes. I don't know how much water's in the sea, but I know what it is that the world needs. Come on now. I don't know what makes a bird fly, and I don't know how a cloud floats in the sky. I don't know how much sand is on a beach, but I know what it is that the world needs, and that's the love of a good friend when you're feeling low, a heart to help you carry all the burdens that grow, someone to lean on and lighten your load. So grab the love that will hold you, yeah, never let you go. All right. Well, there are answers we can understand, and when they get too heavy, just reach out with your hands. Come on now. And grab the love of a good friend when you're feeling low, a heart to help you carry all the burdens that grow, someone to lean on and lighten your load. So grab the love that will hold you, yeah, never let you go. Grab the love of a good friend when you're feeling low, a heart to help you carry all the burdens that grow, someone to lean on and lighten your load. So grab the love that will hold you, yeah, never let you go. Grab the love that will hold you, never, ever, 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 ever let you go.
Thank you, Zach. That will conclude officially our celebration of life for Robert or Bobby Exon. Again, say your last goodbyes, pay some respects to the family. They all appreciate you being here, and not only the stories you shared, but the love and the support. Thank you, everyone.